Welcome everyone to episode 57 of On the Wild. I'm Riley Keenan. With me, my co-host Anush Basker. Finally, after weeks and weeks of talking about the NFL, we're done with it. We're done. All right. I'm sorry to hear everybody that loves football. We're done. It's basketball time, and we're just coming off the All-Star weekend, so it couldn't be a more perfect time. I want to ask you, what was your biggest takeaway from this past weekend? Because there was a lot that went down.
How awful it was. Like that. To me, All-Star weekend has always been like All-Star Saturday night has always been the attraction for me. Like the All-Star game's cool. It's always entertaining. You see some amazing plays, amazing dunks. This year was an amazing display by Steph Curry with 16 threes he hit, 50 points. But Saturday night was just an absolute disappointment. It was a disaster. And a lot of that is because of the dunk contest. I honestly don't even remember who was in it, other than Jalen Green and Obi Toppin. I know Obi Toppin won.
Yeah, Cole Anthony and
Cole
Toscano,
Anthony, right?
I believe.
Yeah, Toscano Anderson, yeah.
Which, like, immediately I think, like, I don't look at a couple of those guys as dunkers. Like, Jalen Green and Obi Toppin I liked a lot. But, like, Cole Anthony, you never look at that guy and go, oh, yeah, he can throw it down. You're like, no, he's a very intelligent playmaker. And he can shoot the ball. It's just the last couple of years, you could tell the choices haven't been there and haven't been right for the dunk contest. But at the same time, guys like John Morant, LeBron, the guys that you want to see, Zion, they're not going to do it because they know it's not going to have that same regard as it has in previous years. Because at the end of the day, the dunk contest is about innovation. And if we've been doing the dunk contest for 30, 40 years, there's only so much you can really do.
Yeah.
So it's a tough position for these guys to be put in.
Yeah, and you need more than one star to do it. Like, for John Morant to do it, he needs somebody like Zion to be in it as well, just so it builds some sort of hype. Because if you take out Cole Anthony, let's say, and you put in John Morant's going to win it just because he's John Morant. He could literally go out there and just do 2 or 3 or 4 simple dunks, and he's going to win it just because of his name. So you need that sort of balance of star power like we had in 2016. Like, I'm not saying LaVine and Gordon were stars at the time, but they were both great dunkers and kind of household names. Like, I'm pretty sure most NBA fans knew who they were, especially LaVine, because I'm pretty sure he won it the year prior as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe he won it the year after. I don't know. I know he went back to back, but you had that sort of hype to it. This year had no hype, which brought up the question on Twitter, like, do you get rid of the dunk contest? I don't think so. I think you just rearrange the order of the events.
I think you got to finish with the 3-point contest because that's become the most exciting thing, especially with the way the game has turned out to be today. But also, I think you almost have to reformat it, and you have to look at the judges every year and go, hey, guys, like, don't give a 10 for something we've seen already, like a billion times, a windmill or a behind the back. You need to start scoring it realistically. If it's a dunk we've seen before, a 7 and an 8, even if it's incredibly impressive, the people at home can't do it, but it's happened 20 times already. The amount of dunks we saw this past weekend that have just been overdone. And then also met with guys are trying, like Jalen Green took forever, man. It was absurd to watch how long it took for him to figure it out. It was like, just dunk it at this point. Just two-handed, one-handed, I don't care. Put your arm, like, he just looks cool when he dunks. It doesn't matter what you really do at this point. Like you said with Ja, he probably would have won just because he looked emphatic every time he dunks. But they really need to take a look at how they're grading it and how they're presenting it and realize, there's only so much these guys can do at this point. So when you see true innovation, it really deserves a 10 or a 9, if anything. But we can't just be throwing out 10s because, like, that year you were talking about with Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon deserved to win that dunk contest every day of the week. That threw under both legs over a mascot that's doing a 360 and he yams it. But before that, we give LaVine a 10 for something he did the year before. So it's like, you just kind of gave it away. And then you go into overtime, and then you're just coming up with new dunks. It's like, it's not as exciting. You've already done your first 2 or 3. You've got the best that you can do. So reformatting it is incredibly important.
And they tried, like, Cole Anthony, had the Tims, and Jalen Green had the NFT on his neck. Like, that's not really, like, innovation. Like, no one really cares about that.
It's just current events.
It's just, like, also a lot of dunk contests have to, like, what I said about star power in 2000, if the performance that Vince Carter had, if some random dude did that, I don't think it would be remembered as well as it is now because it was Vince Carter. Like, it's remembered that way because it was Vince Carter and there was so much hype around him being in the dunk contest, and every single person who was there to see Vince Carter dunk. So if it was just some random person, I don't think people would care as much. So I think you just need to rearrange the order of the events. I think you open up with the dunk contest because then it's a win-win. Because if it's really good, then you start the night off with a bang. But if it's really bad, then you just got it out of the way.
Yeah, and you can make up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like arrange it according to the hype of the events. Like if let's say next year Ja and Zion, let's say if he's healthy, if that's a big if he's healthy, they both do the dunk contest. I think you put that on last because that's going to generate so much hype and, ratings and all that good stuff and social media buzz, all that. But if it's like it was this year, I think you just open the night with it and get it out the way.
Yeah. You got to kind of book it as like a UFC or a WWE event. Figure out what that main event is and figure out what's going to be like the show stopper. Put that last. And then whatever's going to get people excited, which is easily the dunk contest, started off with the show. So it makes perfect sense. But I also want to kind of talk a little bit about that All-Star game because it's like I kind of find it funny the Jokic comments about like I don't really know what I'm supposed to do out there. Like if I was out, like I watched the game for a good 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, I saw 2 logo threes from Curry, a corner 3, and then like a wing 3. It was insane what that guy was doing. I think he's 16 for 27, but like you see these guys kind of running around and jogging, kind of just making little passes for 3 points. It does, the excitement isn't necessarily there, but you can't really expect that much from these guys. Same with the NFL. Like it was brutal to watch the Pro Bowl a couple weeks ago.
Pro Bowl was awful.
Yeah, like the only All-Star games I could think of that have really figured out a way to make it entertaining is one, baseball, because you're just playing baseball. There's no like physical aggression that comes into it. You can just throw as hard as you can. You can hit it as hard as you can, and you're competing for World Series home.
Yeah, I was about to say that. There's actual stakes.
Yeah, there's something on the line. And then in the NHL, they've moved it down to 3-on-3, so it's very exciting every moment of the game because these guys are giving it their all rather than 5-on-5 where there's less space out on the ice. So I think they just got to kind of figure out a way to make it more exciting. Me personally, I think maybe do a 3-on-3 in the NBA. Like how exciting would it be if like guys just matched up in teams of 3 that were all the all-stars and had like a little mini tournament, games up to 11 or something like that. It would make every little game so intense and exciting. And then you have, 2 finalists go and play each other 3-on-3. And like the trios you get out of that, imagine like back in the day, if LeBron, Carmelo, and Chris Paul were all playing together or Dwayne Wade was added to that or something, it would just make for a lot more interesting games. And you could see the friendships a little more within the players. So it's fun for the fans at home.
I've seen a one-on-one tournament like be kind of floated around. I don't think players would want to do that because that's kind of
they don't want to embarrass themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't want to. Like players like LeBron, even though he is like one of the best players in the NBA, I don't think in a one-on-one tournament he'd do that well because he's not like a one-on-one player. He's a 5-on-5 player, whereas somebody like KD would sweep everybody. It'd
be ridiculous.
I like the idea of a 3-on-3 tournament, but I don't know. The NBA has proven to be kind of like they'll change over time, like with fan, like when fans give their takes on what's wrong with the league, they're pretty quick to change things. So I think they'll change it next year.
Yeah, hopefully. But another one of the big things that came out of the weekend, obviously we're talking about the NBA top 75. We talked about it a little while ago, guys like Dwight Howard, it made absolutely no sense that he's not there. And watching it that night, just seeing like some of the guys that were there, it's like, how's Dwight Howard not part of this? There's a couple of the guys you can call out. A lot of people are still mad about Clay. I'm not saying
Clay shouldn't have been on the list, but it's just the people who they said he should be on there over. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. But out of that top 75, they released, I don't know if they ranked all 75. I think they did, but I saw the top 10 that they came up with, and I'll list it here now, and I'll get your thoughts on it.
The NBA released just 75 players, and then media platforms have kind of just ranked them. Like there's different.
I think the NBA themselves though did come out with the top 10.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so at number 1, no surprise, they had Michael Jordan. Number 2, they had LeBron James. 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 4 was Magic Johnson. 5, Wilt Chamberlain. 6, Bill Russell. 7, Larry Bird. 8, Tim Duncan. 9, Oscar Robinson. And 10, Kobe Bryant. Was there anything that initially stands out there?
I mean, the 1 and 2 is always kind of up to debate.
Yeah.
But like me personally, I would have LeBron first, but I don't really care if Jordan's first. I really don't. But I would have Magic over Kareem just because
Really,
when they played together, Magic was the person who kind of got everything going. He ran the offense, obviously, as the point guard. I think he's the biggest reason as to why they won 5 championships together. Was Shaq in there?
no, Shaq was 11, I believe, right behind.
Yeah, I would put Shaq in the top 10.
Yeah. My initial thing was that I would personally take out Tim Duncan and I'd put in Shaq because, yes, when you talk about, all the accolades that these guys have racked up, Tim Duncan's up there with the best. He was almost up there with Michael Jordan in terms of finals. But there is something to be said about being the best player on a team for 20 years that's been a perennial contender. But at the same time, when we talk about Shaq versus Tim Duncan, Shaq's the most dominant player we've ever seen in the NBA. Like, I'm taking Shaq all day. So I got to put Shaq in there over TD. But I understand it. Another big thing that stood out to me was the Magic Johnson at 4, Larry Bird at 7. I think, they had Wilt and Bill together at 5 and 6. I think you got to have Larry and Magic together because being guys that have, played at the same exact time and were going back and forth for their entire careers. And even Magic said it at one point. He thought Larry was better. I mean, Larry said the same in reverse. I think either have Larry at 5 with Magic 4, or you got to move him back, which I don't think I would do. I would have it Magic at 4, Larry 5, Wilt 6, Bill 7, maybe even Shaq above Bill, because personally I would rather have Shaq than Bill Russell. But another name I feel like what could have been on the list, but it's tough, Hakeem Olajuwon. I think he's so valuable. He was so valuable to the Houston Rockets, and he's easily a top 15 player all time. But it's tough to take anyone out. I couldn't take Kobe out, but I don't necessarily think I can move him far up. There's a lot of people that saying he should have been 3 or 4. I think top 10, sitting 10 or 9 is the right spot for him personally.
And you can't go wrong with anybody. Like I honestly wouldn't put Bill Russell in the top 10. I know he won 11 championships, but like he played in a league where there was 8. Yeah, there wasn't a full league like it is now. So, and it's kind of unfair for older players like that because I don't think you can really compare those guys to the modern era because, I mean, let's just be honest, modern era players are just better. Like they're more skilled all around. So I personally wouldn't put Bill Russell in the top 10. I understand why he's there because he's kind of like the godfather. Like he won 11 rings. He's at every event. Everybody respects him so much, but I wouldn't put him in the top 10. My personal top 10.
And another thing I wanted to talk about was, some of the guys that are obviously already on the top 75, but the guys that are playing currently in the league and guys who maybe will able to achieve that top 10. The name that immediately comes to mind is Giannis. I think he was at 18, right behind Dirk at 17. Within 5 to 6 years, I think Giannis could be called the top 10 player. He's already got 2 MVPs and a Defensive Player of the Year under his belt. He got his ring, putting up 50 in Game 6 after being down, 2-0 to Phoenix, who was an incredible team. And I think they're going to be able to get back to the finals again this year. I think I believe Giannis is the best player in the NBA right now. But he's a guy that, a lot of people were complaining he wasn't a little bit higher, but it makes sense right now that he's at 18. He's only, he's 27 years old. He's got a lot of time left, but I absolutely think he's going to be in that running. But is there anybody else? Well, obviously I want to get your opinion on Giannis, but is there anybody else that you think could crack that top 10 in the coming years?
No, Giannis will be there. I think Steph has a good chance, and KD. Those are the 3 that could get in there. I think KD, he's being kind of not talked about as much, but he's kind of becoming injury prone a little bit. Absolutely. Seems like every year there's something bothering him, so maybe that'll hold him out. Of the top 10, I think he's solidified as a top 15 player. I don't know where he is on the list that you're talking about, but
I think he was 13. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so like he's a top 15 player already, so he'll still have time to get into the top 10. He's a little bit older. Like he's 30, 33, 32, 33. So it's not like he has, 7-8 years left like Giannis does. And same thing with Steph. I think because of how Steph has kind of revolutionized the game with the 3-point shot, I think he should be a top 10 player by the time he retires just because of how he changed the game. Absolutely. But those 3 guys, I think, have the best chance of being a top 10 player. I would even maybe say like Luka, but it's too early to tell.
It's tough to tell right now, but
it's top nice 10. Like those are the greatest players of all time. You can't really project that yet.
Yeah, it's incredibly prestigious, and you have to do something or a laundry list of things to be notable, to be like, this guy clearly needs to be in the top 10. All the guys that I listed, it makes sense why they're there. It's tough to argue them out, but there's a lot of guys you can put in, but it makes sense. There's no like mind-boggling picks there. So you're going to have to do something to really set yourself apart. And I think Luka does have that opportunity. You know, he's been in 2 playoffs. He's went to game 7 in both of them with really not too much depth on his side and playing a tough Clippers defensive team that's got guys, you know, Bev, Kawhi, and George are switching off on this guy, and he's still able to put up 30 plus a night.
Yeah.
He's been one of the, I think, you know, Luka's going to go down as one of the greatest playoff performers to ever play the game. Like every year we talk about this guy. He's only, you know, it's his 4th year in the league. We talk about him being a possibility for MVP every year. And he, you know, he starts off slow, but then he ends up picking it up at the end of the All-Star break. And then come playoff time, he turns on the gas. And I think that's something that we're going to see this year a lot, obviously, and for the rest of his career. But he's definitely a guy I can see being up there. And watching guys like Michael Jordan kind of coming up to him from behind, just being like, hey, man, like just talking to him, you can see the bright smile on his face. Like the legends know it too, that he's something special.
He's also a Jordan athlete, so they kind of have that connection. But my only thing with Luka, though, is that he always plays himself into shape. I don't like that. Like he always comes into the season, it seems like he's out of shape, or he's trying to like play himself back into, you know, his peak form, which I wish he would come into a season, you know, well trained. I know he had the Olympics this last summer, and he was kind of like, and the longer season that was last season, like it went into like the summer months, which I guess that kind of played into it. But I want Luka to start a season, you know, in shape, so he can kind of have that MVP season that everybody's kind of been predicting over the last couple of years. But yeah, Luka is definitely, of the younger players, like the young generation, I think has the best shot. Yeah,
I completely agree. And that obviously we can come back to this, but that kind of perfectly segued into one of the other things I wanted to talk about, because, you know, we talk about guys getting in shape. Zion's been a guy that's been in the news a lot lately. Obviously, we know his shape's been a problem, his attitude's been a problem, but obviously CJ McCollum comes out and says, you know, he gets traded to New Orleans, and Zion hasn't even reached out, not once. So I think they haven't even had a sit down. I think they've spoke like a couple times in person, but it hasn't been anything crazy. And it seems like CJ's been getting information from a lot of the other guys. And what it seems like is Zion's not the greatest teammate. You know, obviously you're not talking about the greatest, but like he's not the best guy to be around in the locker room. And especially at the time he is in his career where he's been out of the lineup, he's kind of disconnected from that Pelicans unit. And that's something you can't be as a star player, let alone a number 1 overall pick that was supposed to revolutionize a franchise. So yeah, I kind of compare him and Luka and Zion, because those are the 2 names we talk about when we talk about, you know, who are going to be the bases of the league in 5, 6, 7 years. You talk about Luka and you talk about Zion. The difference has been both guys have been, you know, out of shape, but one has come into his own and realized, okay, this is gut check time. I got to get in and I got to be ready now. Zion has been incredible on the court, you know, 25 points per game over his career right now, but he can't stay healthy. And it is rooted in the fact that he can't eat healthy or remain healthy. It's a tough place to be right now, but like accountability needs to be taken.
Yeah. Maybe just look at how he looked when he was at Duke compared to where he is now, or last time we saw him. It was just there's a huge difference, and he's put on a lot of weight, and that's kind of his what makes him special, is that he weighs that much and he's so explosive. But it gets to a point where he has so much excess weight that like he's not going to last.
Yeah.
And it's not like he is so powerful that even if he sheds 20, 30 pounds or however much he is right now, I don't know how much he weighs right now, but if he sheds 20, 30 pounds, he'll still have that power to where he can still be dominant, and he'll have more explosiveness because he'll be lighter. So the whole, like, there's also stuff about him wanting a trade, like he wants out of New Orleans. I think that's just awful, because like you've only played 85 games out of a possible almost 200 games. You've missed more games than you've played. You have no like reason to want to trade.
Yeah, he has no justification for wanting a trade. He's supposed to be the reason they're winning games. Yeah, you have Brandon Ingram and you have a lot of other ballers on that team, but you're the number 1 guy that was supposed to be coming there as number 1 overall pick and change the franchise. And he hasn't done that. And he complains about them not winning. It's like, that's on you, man. LeBron didn't want out of Cleveland first 3 years into his. They weren't great, but he made them great. And he came into his own. And it does baffle me, the whole thing about CJ McCollum. If you are the number 1 guy on a team, and a guy gets traded to you, you got to reach out to that guy and be like, hey, we're happy to have you. Welcome to the team. Let alone a guy that's top 50 player in the league and CJ McCollum, who's a veteran, who's been to the playoffs, who's done a lot in the NBA that can really help a lot of these young guys. And he's not showing them any respect, which to me is just, it's bad. Like, you can't bring that into an organization. You know, you're supposed to be the guy. And it seems like he wants no part of it. And yet, you know, there's talk about him going to the Knicks because Barrett and Reddish are already there. The Knicks are a disaster as well. So what's really going to happen if he goes there? Something needs to change.
It's just linking with your friend. It's just linking with your friends. That's really all it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just shows that
he might be happier, but
it just shows that he doesn't really like. I don't want to say he doesn't love basketball, because I'm sure he does, but he values kind of his teammates more than winning, I guess, because he's not going to win with the Knicks. He has a better chance of winning with the Pelicans than he does with the Knicks. I think the Pelicans have a better roster than the Knicks do.
Yeah.
McCollum, Ingram, Zion, I think that's a really good fit, because McCollum's a combo guard. He can do everything. He can play make. He can create his own shot, but he can also catch and shoot. Same with Brandon Ingram and Zion on the inside. I think that's a really good team, or it has the potential to be a good team with the right role players. So I don't understand why he would want out of New Orleans right now. Maybe in a few years, if they still haven't won, I understand, but you're in year 3 and you've barely played.
Yeah.
And it's not just insiders making stuff up. JJ Redick, who was his teammate in New Orleans, said he is a detached teammate. Yeah. So it means that he's not like he's not, I don't think he's necessarily saying that Zion's a bad person. Yeah. He's just not as engaged, or he doesn't want to be that teammate, that leader that he's supposed to be as the number 1 overall pick. Yeah.
Like he's definitely detached and disconnected. I wouldn't say that he's selfish. And I don't think Redick said that. No. You definitely didn't say that, but he's a little ignorant in the sense that he's not understanding the role that he has, you know, and I guess ignorance can be bliss, but when you're in the eye of the media, you're going to get, you know, ripped on it all the time. He's got to be hearing all these voices from the outside, all these legends that are talking about him, the faces in the media. He's got to hear that. And obviously a lot of time you got to block the media out because, you know, they're going to say a lot of wrong things. They're going to make reaches. But right now, we've been hearing this for every year that he's been in the league now. So something truly has to change.
And he has so many resources. Like, you're the number 1 overall pick. You have a $90 million contract from Jordan. You're eligible to sign an $180 million contract this summer. I don't know if New Orleans will give it to him. I think they will, just to keep him around. But like, just reach out to Charles Barkley. Like, he said it on TNT. Like, just reach out to me. They're so comparable, because when Barkley got into Philadelphia, he was overweight, and Moses Malone got on him, and, you know, he got himself into shape, and then we saw what happened in Phoenix. He won an MVP. Just reach out to Charles Barkley. It's a very similar situation. I'm sure Charles Barkley would love to help. I know he has this persona on TV, but I genuinely think that he would love to help Zion. So,
absolutely.
I don't know. I feel like he should just use his resources and not want out of New Orleans, because not only will it be a bad look for him, but, you know, you're kind of ruining your reputation.
Yeah, you're hurting your legacy. You're letting an organization down that's putting a lot of money into you and a lot of faith. And that's kind of the difference between Zion and a lot of these young guys. Is as soon as these guys they earn it and they get a big contract. Let's not lie here. Zion has earned a contract. He put up, you know, 27 points per game last year, nearly 8 rebounds. When anybody else has got their contract, like Luka, as soon as they got that big contract, it was like, all right, I got this chip on my shoulder now. You guys want me. I'm gonna be here for a while. I'm gonna prove myself. Zion's attitude has kind of been like, I've already proved myself. That's why I have the money. It's like, no, dude, you haven't done anything yet. You haven't made a playoffs. You've played 85 games, like you said earlier. You got to play more than a season to really show that you can be that guy. Because right now, it seems like he's going to have a Yao Ming type career. And no disrespect to Yao Ming. That was, and none of that was his fault. That was just, you know, progressive injuries and having to leave the league early. But it's kind of going down that route with the attitude he's laid out for his own path.
Yeah, it just seems like he's not motivated to like just to play basketball. I mean, I'm not trying to compare myself to him, but like, if somebody's that age, you know, what is he, 21? Yeah, 21 years old. Like, yeah, like I would want to play. Like, I don't want to say that he's not injured, because I'm sure he is. Like, he has to get another surgery, so there's obviously something wrong with his foot. Yeah, but I would be eager to play, eager to get ready to play, and do my best to recover as fast as I can to play. And prove myself, because he's not a bust. Like, I don't think nobody's going to call him a bust because he's proven that he's a really good player and he's a dominant player, but it's just about staying on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. It's frustrating. If I was in New Orleans right now, having Chris Paul come in there and then you lose out on him, AD comes in, you make a huge trade, you get a lot of pieces in return. And people are even talking about right now the Lakers giving up too much for it. And yet, what have the Pelicans done with that, haul that they got in return? So,
and they didn't give up too much. They won a title. People forget
exactly.
they won a title. That was the whole goal with the AD trade, was to win a title. If you win more, great, but you had to win one, and they did that.
Yeah, it's like they could be bad for the next 5 years. Doesn't matter. You won the title. It's the same thing that kills me when people talk about what was the point of trading DeMar for Kawhi? They won the title. They 1 year with Kawhi, they got a dub.
Yeah,
I'm ecstatic with that. The Raptors could come last for the next 10 years. We won a title.
Exactly.
It is what it is. So you have to value what you get out of it. But yeah, they gave up a lot to get him, but it was absolutely worth it. Now Russ, that's a different story.
Yeah,
and I guess we could speak on the Lakers a bit here. Do you think they have a true shot of making a run in the playoffs, let alone making the playoffs?
I think they'll get out of the play-in, and we'll see what happens from there. Because if they play the Suns in the first round, I actually give them a shot because Chris Paul is out 6 to 8 weeks with his thumb.
Yeah.
And we don't know when he does come back. And that's reevaluated in 6 to 8 weeks. So it doesn't even mean that he's coming back in that time frame. So it could even be longer. If they play the Suns without Chris Paul and they get AD back, I don't know. Maybe they can maybe squeeze one out. I don't know. But they're not winning the title this year. Not a chance.
Yeah, no. And I even look on the other side of the ball with the Nets in the East. It's just there's too much disconnect between a lot of these guys. And obviously they brought a lot of people in, and I think the Nets could make a run. But with Kyrie not playing every game, that hurts you so much chemistry-wise.
They're getting rid of the mandate in a couple weeks, so they'll be able to play.
Is that official?
Apparently. We don't live in New York, so we don't know, but the mayor said that they're going to get rid of the mandates very soon.
Okay. So he'll be there for home games, which helps. But in terms of road games, do you know how many teams, obviously
if
you're playing Toronto.
It's a very stupid rule that the NBA has. Even Adam Silver called it out. Away players who are unvaccinated can play in those arenas. So like, let's say a player's unvaccinated and they go to Brooklyn right now, they can play, but Kyrie can't. Home players can't play. Yeah, it makes no sense. But
like you could say travel and but you're traveling with the team, so you're with those guys no matter what. So it really doesn't matter. That is a dumb rule. That is something needs to be evaluated with that. But
they should have talked about it before they did it.
Yeah, listen, if Kyrie is there, Brooklyn is a massive contender, but he needs to be there because, bringing in Dragic was a nice piece. I think he'll fit really well, especially the fact that Nash was the guy that trained him. So them being together is going to be great for their offense, but we still don't really know where Ben Simmons is at. I've heard that, mentally he's in the best state he's been in a while. Philadelphia definitely did a number on him. And obviously we know what it did to his confidence. And I think already just being in Brooklyn has helped him a lot. So once he gets in the back in the lineup, we'll truly see how these guys are. But like you said earlier, KD's been injury prone, and something like, can we trust him to be there? And right now, with him out for so long and not knowing when he's back, who's to say the Nets even make a playoffs with the way they've been struggling right now?
I think KD will be back. I think it's just a matter of playing together. I think they'll be fine. They're in a play-in spot right now. I'm not sure how far back they are of the 6th seed or to get out of the play-in, but if they are all healthy and they can mesh a little bit, then yeah, they can beat anybody in the East. But as it stands right now, I wouldn't pick them over Milwaukee, Miami, Chicago, Philadelphia. I wouldn't put them over them.
Yeah. I'll ask you this though. I'm curious about your thoughts on Toronto. Because their team, they've been talked about a little bit. They're in a playoff spot. They're going to make the playoffs. And I don't think they'll have to play in personally. I think they'll be able to work their way up a little bit. How do you view that Raptor squad?
It's impressive because I don't think going into the season, I didn't think that they would be what they are. I thought they would be maybe a play-in team and maybe they squeak into the playoffs. But Gary Trent has really come on this year as a great player, as a great role player. I think I mean, when that trade happened, I don't remember how you felt about it, but I was kind of like, Norman Powell's better than Gary Trent.
I agree. I thought
But,
Norman was better, but I remembered from the bubble, Trent was that number 2 guy on Portland. So I was a little optimistic about it.
And obviously you have Fred VanVleet breaking out this year. He's been an all-star. I'm still not a fan of Siakam. I've never been a fan of Siakam. You know me pretty well, so I've never been high on him, but no, he's okay. But yeah, it's very impressive.
I think he should have been an all-star over Middleton.
Yeah.
Like he led in most stats compared to him. And also I believe Siakam's number 3 in the league in isolation scoring, which was a massive problem for him in that Celtics series when everyone thought he fell off a cliff. He's figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you look at OG Anunoby too, a guy that's improved a ton, 18 points per game this season. And I think if in any other team, I think he'd be putting up 20. I think he really would have a shot at being a most improved player. But they have such a balanced starting lineup, and even the depth too, like Fred, Trent, OG, Barnes, and Siakam. That's, I guess, their starting 5 right now. They all need the ball in their hands. So a guy like Scotty's not going to get as much opportunity to progress. I think with this lineup, you got to move either Birch or Achua into the starting lineup and move Barnes to the bench as a 6-man. I think he'll have a lot more opportunity to score there.
And he was a 6-man in college too.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be a perfect fit. I think come playoff time, that would help a lot. It would be a lot tougher for teams to score. That's the thing with the Raptors. It's going to be tough to score on these guys. They're not the tallest team, but they got a lot of wingspan. It's going to be tough to drive the paint on these guys, and especially on the perimeter. Like Gary Trent, I think, has been the most improved defensive player in the league this season. He's racking up steals like it's nothing. And meanwhile, what Fred and OG can do out there. So it's going to be tough to score on this team, but it's really going to come down to who's going to be the guy to really take it into their own hands and put up the 25 points you need. And I think that'll change a lot, but to be able to make a run. Yeah.
They don't have that superstar that can compete with Milwaukee, Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Miami doesn't have a superstar, but they have a bunch of stars. They have Butler, they have Bam, they have Kyle Lowry. Toronto doesn't have the guy that can match Giannis or KD or anybody like that. So, or DeRozan or Levine. So yeah, they just need that. They need that guy like they had with Kawhi in that 1 year. But it's very impressive what they're doing.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep on them. I do think that they can make the second round at least. But this team can push. The year after they lost Kawhi, they were realistically 1 or 2 plays away from being in that conference finals against Miami, and I probably would have taken them over Miami. And I think this roster, I don't know if it's better per se, but it's got the potential to be better, absolutely, with the amount of youth that they have. But yeah, there's a lot of young teams right now, like the Celtics. Like they're making their way up. We talk about them needing a facilitator, but it seems like Tatum and Brown have started to kind of figure it out a little bit more. There was a lot of talk about one of them needing to be traded. I think Tatum just said, like, listen, you got 2 top 20 players in the league on the same team below the age of 23. They're going to figure it out. You got to give them time.
And credit to coach too. He made Udoka. He's just kind of letting them go out there and just play. Like there's not really like a really good system. It's more of them taking turns, which I don't know how sustainable that is in the playoffs, but they're just letting them go out there and play basketball, which fits them well because they can both kind of do everything. So let them run the show and let the role players kind of make shots when they need to, but the whole team revolves around those two, which should have been the whole thing. Should have been the game plan the whole time, which I don't know.
True. Well, next week we're definitely going to have Jack McCool on. You guys will see him next week. We'll talk a little bit more of the NBA, but before we get to that, obviously just because the All-Star break has finished, what is your pick right now for the finals if you had to make one?
The West is so open. If Chris Paul didn't get injured, I would have said Phoenix was going to run through the West. But since he's not there and we don't know when he's coming back or if he'll come back healthy, right now I'm going to go Golden State versus – we haven't even seen him play yet. I really want to say Philadelphia. Because of how well Embiid's been playing and Harden, how he's going to complement Embiid. They're playing their first game tonight, actually, the time that we're recording. But in the East, I don't know. Philadelphia, whatever. I'll pick Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's close to mine. I thought you were going to say what I was going to say. I'm thinking Warriors Bucks. I agree with the same thing. If Chris Paul didn't get hurt, I think I would have said a Bucks Phoenix rematch, which I would absolutely love that. But I think Warriors Bucks. I think the Warriors are the team to beat right now because obviously Steph Curry went into the All-Star break struggling. You know, he took his name right off the MVP ballot with the way he was going into the All-Star break. But obviously he puts up 50 points in the game. And I think it did help that top 75, getting the jacket, being around all those guys, I think it gave him a little edge. It kind of made him, like, he already knew he's the greatest shooter of all time. He already knew he's up there with the greatest, but just being around them in the moment, tangible, you know, what is this, science class? Not even science.
Business class.
Whatever.
Tangible
Business,
assets.
holy, tangible assets, liabilities. No, he's being around those guys. It puts an edge on him to be like, you know what? I am one of the best to ever do it. And I'm going to go up there and ball. And I think that's what he's going to do the second half of the year. And we've already seen Clay slowly work his way up the ladder. He dropped 33, you know, a couple nights before the All-Star break. He's coming into his own. Obviously, Draymond's going to be coming back. We all know how important he is and integral he is to that roster. And same with Wiseman. He's a guy that we haven't seen a lot from, but I think he'll be incredibly important come playoff time to be that big body in the paint. And, you know, this guy's a second pick in the draft. Let's not forget that. He's got a lot of potential and he's so young and he's dealt with some injuries, but he's going to be incredibly important. And same with a guy like Jordan Poole, who could get a lot of money in free agency. You talk about getting possibly 80 million. He'll be a great guy coming off the bench for him. And then you look at the Bucks. Giannis, I think, is the best player in the world. Middleton's been figuring it out slowly. And then you got Drew Holiday, who I can't talk enough about his defense. He's shooting over 50% this year. So those are the two teams I think, you know, I would have to take, but it's wide open. It's completely open.
Yeah. Like, you never know. Maybe Memphis makes a run. I think they're a bit young, but they're getting Dylan Brooks back. Who knows what happens with that? Like, I just think there's a lot of teams that can win the East. The West is very wide open, but I don't see like it's wide open, but I don't see any teams that are unbeatable. Like in the East, I think it comes down to 4 teams. For me right now, it's Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Miami. Those are the top 4 for me. But in the West, I would say Phoenix if Chris Paul was there, Golden State, and I just feel like it's everybody else.
Yeah. It's like you can talk about Memphis or Utah, but I really can't back them enough.
Utah's not doing anything.
They're not legit. And especially with the chemistry issue with Gobert and Mitchell has been a problem for years now. So something has to be it does suck too for Utah, because you got that interior force that you need, and then you got that playmaking shot creator in Donovan Mitchell. But the two just don't mesh well together, and it seems like they don't really like each other. When that seems like it would be a duo that could really do some damage in the future. Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of season to be played. I don't even know how many games they have left. I think it's like 20-something, 25 games left until the playoffs. So we're in that final stretch. We'll see what happens. But I think that's a good place to wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment down below, and we'll see you all next week. Take it easy.
Stay well.
Peace.